one or two, a few people, no, it is not industrial dispute. You can actually mutually, you can talk it out and you can settle it. Both of them, it will always overlap. Say that person wants to go for a sympathy strike, but it appears as if they are doing the strike themselves. The employer have not fulfilled their needs, or the employer is actually taking more time to fulfill their needs. Primary strike, it is done because of a dispute between the employees and the employer. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Abhilash Chandra from the Department of Commerce and Management in Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. Welcome to the fourth chapter and the first session. The fourth chapter is all about industrial dispute. Now, what is that we have learned in the third chapter, industrial relationship? Here we'll understand that what are the disputes faced by the industries. Now, here also we have the three people, that is employer, employee and the laborers, and then the third person is the government. So what exactly this dispute is all about? So accordingly, if you go with the industrial dispute, we need to understand the meaning of industrial dispute. Any differences you have with your employer or the employee or the laborer or anybody who is working or non-working in that particular industry, if they have any differences, we term them as the industrial disputes. See, when we go with industrial dispute, it is not just one person having a problem with one more person. We will never consider like one person having a dispute with other person. Industrial dispute means we should have majority of the people, like there should be like a lot of people who have the differences opinion about the other person. So according to the Act of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, they say that defines industrial dispute as any dispute or differences between employers and employee, or between employers and workers, or between workers and worker, not like one-on-one. It's like lot of workers with lot of workers. It is connected with the employment or non-employment or terms of employment or with the conditions of labor of any person. We term that as industrial disputes. What are the factors of industrial dispute? The first one is the dispute mainly relate to the strife between employers and their employees. This is what the major problem is. There must actually be a difference. Yes, there should be always a difference, but what is the degree of differences? That is what you are supposed to measure. It works related or industrial matter issues. Disputes must be raised by group or class of workmen. And please understand, this is the last point which I'll be telling you here. Disputes between one or two workmen and their employers are not an industrial dispute. One or two, a few people, no, it is not industrial dispute. You can actually mutually, you can talk it out and you can settle it. But if it is like large number of people have a problem with the employer, or the employer have a problem with a large number of people, we term them as industrial dispute. So it is what? The employer with the employees, employees with the employer, or employees with the other employees. Now all these are what? Like you have got a kind of a dispute where the differences is that the degree of dispute should be measured, and then we will term that as what? Industrial dispute. And this is what, according to the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, they say that. So let's go with the next one. The next topic here we have is the forms of industrial dispute. What are the types of industrial disputes? Majorly, let me just tell you, we have like three of the major broadly classified disputes. The first one is the strike. We term them as, in the strike only, we have something called the primary strike, the secondary strike, and the other common types. Now, what does a strike means? Now, strikes are done by the employees. It is not done by the employer. It is done by who? By the employees. Now, employees will go for a strike on two grounds. The first one, the second one. Now, the first one is what we call it as like primary strikes. Primary. Here is because of the secondary strikes, the other common factors. Now, what are the primary strikes? What are the secondary strike? Before that, we should know what exactly a strike is. Now, when we go with this word strike, please understand. Strikes are often classified on some distinct. There are few classification of strikes. Bases such as their purpose, their coverage. So, why there is a strike? What made the employees go for a strike? And how it can be resolved. So here the purpose, coverage or the technique used, that is what will distinct from each and every strike. Why those strikes are there? Say example, we have like sympathy strike. Now what is this word sympathy strike? You don't have any problem with your employer, but you have a problem with somebody's employer. And you go and you be a part of those employees who are already doing a strike. You actually give them your support. That is called sympathy strike. So on basis of their coverage, basis of their purpose and basis of their technique used, a strike is actually defined. In many cases, the forms are specified on separate basis overlap and it becomes difficult to identify the base on which the classification has been made. Sometimes also because of illiteracy of people, we can never judge what type of a strike is that. So both of them, it will always overlap. Say that person wants to go for a sympathy strike, but it appears as if they are doing the strike themselves. So that is what. So here clarity will not be there if it is overlap. So let's go with the first one. The first one we have as basic feature of strikes. Now when we go with the basic feature, there are two, primary and secondary. And primary strike, it is done because of a dispute between the employees and the employer. So I told you strike is done by employees for the purpose of what? It has not been done by the employer. Secondary strike is that now after the primary is not attained the value for it, they go to the next degree. That degree is called as secondary strike. I'll tell you more about secondary strike in the next session. Let's understand more about the primary strike in this session. So primary strike is done by workers when they have dispute against their employer, when they have a problem with the employer. Secondary strike is a continuity of the primary strike. If whatever the need is not fulfilled, then the primary strike is converted to the secondary strikes. Okay, so let's go with the first one here. So the first one we have is the primary strike. In primary strike, we have a lot of other different strike. We will understand what exactly are the different forms of primary strike. The first one here we have is the economic strike. When it comes to economic strike, here the workers, they really want the employer to see to the standard of the workers' living. Now, what exactly they want is economic benefits they want. That is more incentives, more benefit, more bonus, more wages and more extra facilities. So here most of the strikes of workers for more facilities and increase in wage level, they go with what? Economic strike. In economic strike, the laborers demand increase in wages, traveling allowance, which we call it as a TA. Okay, now house rent allowance, HRA, durance allowance, with TA they want DA, durance allowance and other benefits, so that we term it as economic strikes. Second is general strike. Now generally what happens is, it means a strike by members of all or most of the union in a region or an industry. It may be a strike of the workers in particular region of the industry to force demand commonly to all the workers. General strike happens, that is like throughout that particular thing, they'll go with the general strike. So they don't have a common purpose. It generally which happens. Next is stay-in strikes. Now in this case, the workers do not absent themselves from their place of work when they are on strike. They keep control over production facilities but do not work. Such as a strike is known as the pen down or tool down strike. So stay in strike in the sense they will not go anywhere, they will be there. They will actually see to it that productivity control should be there and productivity facility should be there, but they will not work more. Slow down strike. The word itself says what? Slow down. So it affect the productivity. It affect what? The productivity of the organization. What is that the purpose of doing a slow down strike is? Say example, the employer have not fulfilled their needs, or the employer is actually taking more time to fulfill their needs. That is the time they'll go for a slow down strike. So here when it comes to slow down strike, the employees remain on their job under this type of strike. They do not stop work but restrict the rate of output in an organization manner. Next, here when you go with the organized manner, please understand the slow down strike in the sense, say example, 10,000 units they are supposed to manufacture in a day. Per day, they are supposed to manufacture 10,000 units. If they are in slow down strike, what is that they'll do is, they'll actually start manufacturing, say 2,500 units per day. See, they are manufacturing. The work is on process, but they have limited the output. Next is secondary strike. Now, secondary strike, in the next session, I'm going to teach you more. I've taken one of the example of secondary strike, that is like sympathy strike. I have already given you an example of sympathetic strike. Say example here, when the workers of one unit or industry go on strike in sympathy with workers of another unit or industry who are already on strike. So it is called a sympathetic strike. The workers of sugar industry may go on strike in sympathy with their fellow workers of the textile industry who may be already on strike. That is called sympathetic strike. So I'll teach you more about the different types of strike. Here now what is that we have learned is we went with the primary strike here. In primary strike we have gone with the economic strike. That means wages increase in salary is what they go with, economic strike. Then we also got to know about the other forms of primary strike, and here in the next session I'm going to teach you more about the secondary strike and how can we actually overcome the strikes. Thank you so much. Any doubt regarding this session, please do call us. We're always there to help you. I'll see you when I see you.